And joining me now with their take are South Carolina Congressman Tim Scott, who has decided to vote against the bill, and Texas Congressman Michael Burgess, a member of the Tea Party caucus. Guys, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Sean.
much. Thank you for having us.
Congressman Burgess, have you indicated, from what I understood, you were kind of vacillating today?
Yesterday, I certainly was. I was very undecided yesterday and possibly even leaning a little bit toward the negative side. I was up all night with the wording of the legislation, with some historical documents related to prior shutdowns and debt limit excursions. Sean, the conclusion I came to is that on Tuesday, none of us knows what's going to happen. Most of us feel that Timothy Geithner has put an arbitrary deadline out there. The world is not coming to an end on Tuesday. But at that point, we'd cede the narrative to Barack Obama. And when that happens, he will not go out of his way to make House Republicans look good. In fact, he will do everything he can. We've already seen that, Sean. Look what he's done with Social Security threats. Look what he did with veterans threats. And the fact of the matter remains, if we don't defeat this president, we don't get to take this health care bill off the backs of the American people.
Well,
that's what's at stake here.
Let me, look, I understand the dilemma you're in, but let me throw another narrative at you. Harry Reid says, not going to happen, dead on arrival. They take the bill. They say, this is the Republican bill. We didn't want it. We get the downgrade, which is coming anyway, from S&P and Moody's, and they say, well, the Republicans put us in this position. They wouldn't even listen to our ideas, even though they didn't put any ideas on the table. So, in essence, are you in a box either way?
We certainly are. And again, I don't get to sit at the leadership table. I was grateful last week when Speaker Boehner said, we're bringing this back down to the Capitol. We pass the legislation. The president decides what he wants to sign. That's as it should be. Regular order is your friend in this situation. This debate should have always been at the Capitol, always been in the committee rooms, and been on the floor of the House. For people to see, behind closed doors is no way to run this process.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the biggest tactical error when you guys in the House passed the right bill, cut, cap, and balance, and then we had competing bills in the Senate, I think it cut the legs out from what would have been better for the country. Congressman Scott, good to see you again, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So you're going to vote no on the bill. Am I assuming, like everybody else here, that the reason this bill has been postponed is that the Speaker is shy a number of votes here?
You know, that would seem to be the case, but I would tell you this, that as the bill stands today, I cannot support it for some very common sense reasons. And I grew up in a single-parent household, and I know that the women who are out there working 16 hours a day trying to figure out how to pass on the American dream to their kids, they want to know that the financial solvency of this nation has been taken care of. I took an oath of office, and I take a look in the mirror, and I say to myself, I cannot support this, because simply looking my mother in the face, looking other folks in the face, hardworking Americans, and saying that this is the best we can do simply is not good enough.
All right, well, let me ask both of you this, and I'll ask you first, Congressman Burgess. What if Speaker Boehner can't get the votes tonight? Even though they're saying this vote is going to take place, we're waiting. They may call the vote within the next 15 minutes for all we know.
Yeah,
but if he can't get it done, then why don't you just go back and say, well, we already passed our bill. Where's your bill, Mr. President? Put your ideas on paper.
And in fact, after cut, cap, and balance passed last week, I thought that's where we should have been.
Yes.
Maybe we passed that too soon. I don't know. I didn't get to war game this thing out. I wasn't at the table when those decisions were made. But I do know this, and Representative Scott and I share the same concerns about the future. The unemployment rate in African-American men in their 20s right now is staggeringly high. My state has done a little bit better on the employment side, but we're both under assault from this administration. Tim, with the National Labor Relations Board and Boeing, and the entire state of Texas, because of the EPA suddenly throwing us into the mix with other states where we were never intended to be included, and now we're going to have to close down 18 coal plants by January 1st.
But
it gets hot in Texas in the summertime.
But isn't the reality of this bill? Now, if the cuts were immediate, for example, the president is going to get $1 trillion right up front, Congressman Scott. $1 trillion.
Yes.
The cuts are going to be over 10 years. And in the intervening period, future Congresses are not necessarily going to be held to whatever cuts come in the future, number one. And number two, we're using a baseline where assuming CBO scoring out years out that is including 7, 8, 9% increases every single year in federal government spending. So there's still another $9 trillion in there that we're going to have over the 10-year period of new debt that we're accumulating. Shouldn't we be starting with a baseline that we stop increasing the amount of money that we spend every year?
Sean, there are major problems with the bill, and I tell you what, even Speaker Boehner himself says he does not like this bill. I give him kudos for his hard work on making this conference try to come together around something. I will say that first-year cuts of less than $20 billion is not very attractive. The caps look really good, but not having the BBA attached to this makes it very much not the cut, cap, and balance that I've been supporting. So what I'd love for us to see is something unique come out of the House, and that's what we've already done. That may not happen, but I will tell you this, that whether it's the cut, cap, and balance that was dead on arrival in the Senate, or this bill, according to Senator Reid, that will be dead on arrival in the Senate, this conference and this Congress will have to come together between now and Tuesday on something different, it appears to me.
Yeah, but that's
There's no
the point.
question that what comes back from Senator Reid, whatever he sends over, we expect to be DOA as well in the House.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the point here. You know, how have we gotten to this point with the president using all his scare tactics, all his fear-mongering, Congressman Burgess, using veterans and seniors as a wedge and political pawns in this battle? How have we gotten this far, and the president himself has never had the moral courage to put on paper and lead and tell the American people what his bill is?
Well, Sean, you know good and well it's amateur hour down at the White House, has been for some time, and unfortunately will continue to be. That is why it is so important to me that we confine the damage of this administration to a single presidential term. I am afraid if we hand the narrative over to Barack Obama on Tuesday, he will use it to his advantage, as he is capable of doing, and ultimately will gain himself a second term. Look, the caps in this bill may not be the best, but they are very similar to the Gramm-Rudman caps from the 1990s, which did work until future Congresses undid them. In fact, they put some additional constraints on so that the Senate would require a 3/5 vote to exceed the caps, so they can't use a budgetary trick called reconciliation to avoid the caps with a 51% majority. There are some safeguards built in. It's not a great bill, but make no mistake, I am usually not the guy out here defending Speaker Boehner's plans. Usually these roles are reversed, so this is perhaps a little awkward for us, but I think the Speaker is doing the right thing right now. Maybe we were late to getting it to where it should have been. I can't defend the timeline, but at the same time, I can defend the product, and we need to get out there and get this done.
As a conservative, Congressman Scott, what I don't understand is the very day, and I've been going back to this, that you guys in the House were doing the right thing. And I give the Republicans, they didn't vote for Obamacare, they didn't vote for the budgets of the president, they didn't vote for stimulus, they voted to repeal Obamacare, they voted for the Ryan plan, they voted for cut, cap, and tax, and then all of a sudden we're competing against ourselves, and the president and the Democrats haven't passed a single thing, nor did they tell the American people. Tactically, is that a mistake when you negotiate against yourself?
Well, there's one thing that you learn in sales, and I ran an insurance agency for a long time, and once you make your offer, you stop talking. You don't have a counteroffer, you simply stop talking, and that's what we need to do. We need to put the final thing on the table, and I hope that it would have been cut, cap, and balance, but it's not. So I'm hoping that we will put the final bill on the table and simply say, pass it or get your own bill scored by CBO and start being a leader to the American people and stop demagoguing the issue. It is time for real leadership from the White House. You've seen it in the Congress. Some of us do not like what we're actually working on, but the bottom line is Speaker Boehner is leading.
You can't debate ghosts, Sean.
Thank you both for your time tonight. We really